It's unboxing time today, and along with unboxing, I'm going to repair, I hope, one of my computers. And to make a long story even longer, I have two computers that I built myself 5 years ago, and Computer 1, that's what I named them, Computer 1, Computer 2. Computer 1 a few months ago started to overheat. The CPU, the central processing unit, that's the brain chip, would overheat. There's a light in the computer on the cooler that glows white when all is well. When it turns red, there's overheating, and if it overheats too much, the computer just shuts down. The reason why I build in pairs is when something like that happens, I can swap parts back and forth between computers to figure out where the problem is. So I switch the coolers. That suspect computer CPU cooler worked fine in Computer 2. It's been working in there for 2 or 3 months. But this past week, the red light came on again, and again the computer shut down. And so that tells me it's got to be that cooler. The one that I switched over and put in Computer 1, that's been working fine. So I know that one's working. So what I did was I ordered a new cooler. This is a Corsair H100i RGB Pro XT. Any other letters on there that I didn't get? This is the CPU cooler. It's a liquid cool system. It's a closed loop liquid cool system. I'll explain all that when we get into it. This is what I want to unbox. It wasn't overly expensive, $130. It didn't take a big bite out of my checking account because I have a separate account that I use just from my website, my computers. That computer, by the way, Computer 2, that's the one that I use for editing these videos and for making updates to my website. So that's where the money came from. There was enough in there, plus I had some money that came from Patreon, so I was able to pay for this without having to dip into other funds. So let's unbox this and then repair my computer. I haven't even broken the shrink wrap on this yet. All right, toss that in the trash. Don't know how to open this. Right there. Okay, warranty, and this is probably installation guide, but I've done, in essence, 3 of these because, well, 4, because I put them in my computers initially and then I swapped them back and forth. Okay. I'll explain a lot of this as I go along. This is the radiator, just like the radiator in your car. There are hoses over here. The pump circulates liquid through the radiator, and then there are fans right here that are used to pull cool air through the radiator. And then over here, this is the CPU cooler. It's cables for powering it, and this is a little bit different than the one that I had before. It's got a protective plate on it, and it already has a heat transfer compound on there. I'll explain that in a little bit too. This powers this, plugs in there. I know these parts because I've used them enough times. And what have we got over here? This is the plate that would normally attach to the computer, the motherboard. Like so. And I'm going to have to use this, I guess, because it looks like... No, I don't have to. I don't have to, because I've already got one of these in my computer. Is this metal or plastic? It's metal. And I actually like the way it's mounted. I don't like the looks of those things. Those are the screws that are used for the mounting. I can use the old mounting plate bracket. I'll call this a bracket. I'm pretty sure I can. I mean, if I have to, I'll use this. But it's the same socket. The socket is the thing the CPU, the central processing unit, fits into. And what is this? This is more parts that I don't think I'm going to need. Ooh, there's a little key there. I wonder what the key is for. This looks like it's AMD stuff. I don't have AMD, I have Intel. And these are the mounting nuts and the screws to attach the fans and to attach the cooler radiator to the computer. And I think that's it. Empty, empty, nothing in there. All right. Get all this out of the way. And let me go get my computer. Okay, I'm bending over here so you can see my face. This is my computer, one of them. It's a behemoth. Yes, it's a big computer. Just to explain a little bit about these two identical computers, though this one won't be as identical because it'll have a slightly newer CPU cooler in it. The last time I built computers, I wondered if maybe that would be the last time that I would be able to build computers, because I'll be 70 years old this summer. So I decided to pull out all the stops. I bought the best of everything. Each of these computers cost me $6,000 to build. I know how outrageous that is, but I wanted to build. I've never built high-end Dream Machine computers. Here they are. All right, I'm going to take my side panel off so I can get in there to the cooler. Set that aside. And then, oh, I got to take my filters off. You can barely see them, but up top here, held on with magnets, I have some air filters. And I know these aren't the cause of the problem as far as overheating, because one of the things that I did when I was trying to solve the problem was I ran the computer without the filter on, and still it overheated. So that's not the problem. Another thing I tried was I ordered some thermal paste, MX-4. I got this on Amazon. It comes in a little tube. Looks like a little syringe, like that. And I put brand new thermal paste on the CPU, thinking maybe the thermal paste I used was no longer any good. But brand new thermal paste. This came in this morning, so I know it's good. With brand new thermal paste, it didn't solve the problem. So it's got to be this cooler. All right, I'm going to, how am I going to work on this? I'm going to set this down like so. Ooh-wee. Okay, because the first thing I need to do is I want to get the radiator out, or at least loosen it up, and then get the CPU cooler out, and then I have to unplug the cables that control the cooler, and that's going to be kind of, I don't know. I want to make sure that the cables I have will work with the cables that connect it. Two things, and we hope so. All right, I got my screwdriver. I'm going to go around the other side and start taking the radiator out, or at least loosening it up. There are 8 screws here. Oh, and you can see I've got a filter on the back as well. There's actually 4 filters, bottom, front, top, back, to filter the air that goes into the computer, because one of the things I very much dislike is dust in my computer. I have a little tin here for parts. That's actually from a sardine can. It's clean. 8 screws. And by the way, this is a Corsair case because I bought a Corsair cooler and they're designed to work together. I don't know. I don't think it'll fit in other computer cases, like a thermal take, for example. Okay, this last one, I'm just going to loosen it. And then I'm going to go around the other side and see if I can take it off gently without the thing going ka-thunk. Oh, no, missed a screw. Take a screw out here. There it goes. It's dropping down now. Okay. So the radiator now is loose. I think I'm going to take the CPU cooler out next and see if I can lift it all out in one piece and figure out. What I want to do is look at the other one, the replacement, and make sure I understand the cable connectors. I've got the radiator loose now in there. And I went through the directions, always read the directions, to check on the power supply, because this new one uses a different kind of power for it. It uses what they use for like a hard disk, SATA connector. The old one doesn't do that. So I went out to the shed and I got a cable which has the right connectors on it, because I have a modular power supply in here. And there's a bunch of cables that come with it, and you only need to connect the cables you need. So this went out into the shed. So I'd be able to run my new cooler off of my power supply when I'm ready to plug that in. Okay, and then with my screwdriver, disconnect the CPU cooler. So 4 nuts. This is a tough one because it's in such a difficult place. It takes 2 hands to get this one out. Okay, that's the CPU cooler. This is what they call the cold plate. It's a copper plate, and you can see my goop on there. That is the heat transfer paste. Let's see if this will completely come out. And there's what I was looking for. That's the one cable that I have to connect to the motherboard. There's the old one. It's out. And I don't know that I care anything about this one. No point in holding on to it for spare parts. I can just set it aside. All right, I gotta get a paper towel and start cleaning off this old goop from the CPU. Okay, the directions say, and I agree, attach the radiator and the fans as shown. They show a picture. For the best cooling performance, we recommend mounting the fans as an air intake to your PC case, which is what I do. The air on the outside of the computer is typically cooler than the air inside. However, I looked these fans over with a flashlight. Now look at it again. There it is. That's what I wanted to see. Okay, it is there. It's just so tiny you can barely see it. There's a little arrow on there that indicates airflow is in this direction, which matches the other one, because this has the frame on this side. There's no frame over here, and that's how they're mounted on the other cooler. Screw and a washer. And I have 8 of these to do, so I'm going to pause the camera and I'll get this stuff done. Then I have this connector, which goes into the pump, and then there's a block here that goes to a header on the motherboard, and I can look at the other computer to see where it's connected, because I left that in the other computer so I can see how it's connected. This is a very big case. I love this case. There's plenty of room to work with inside, which is important because I've got a lot of stuff in here. And if you notice these hoses here, right here, that's because my video card, this is my EVGA GTX hybrid video card, it has its own water cool system, which attaches to a radiator, which attaches to the back of the computer. Okay. I'm going to kind of just wiggle this into place like so, and then start working out where I'm going to line up the screws. Now that I've got a couple of screws started, that'll line everything up so that I can put the other screws in. I have 6 more to go in, and I counted to make sure I would have enough, and they gave me enough. Radiator is in. Now I can start working inside again. This has a white paste bar on there. This is thermal paste. The idea being that this copper hot plate, or cold plate they call it, isn't going to attach perfectly molecule for molecule with the CPU. Therefore, you use a thermal transfer paste in between that helps to transfer heat from the CPU to the cooler. Oh, look at that. Ta-da! It fits nicely. It fits nicely. Okay, and then I'm going to use the old style nuts to attach it, because I know they go on those screws. Okay, no good. And here's the reason why. I used a mirror and a flashlight because I didn't feel as though the cooler hot plate, or cold plate, I want to call it a hot plate because I cook, the cold plate wasn't touching the CPU. So I got in there with a mirror and a flashlight, and I could see there was about 1/8 of an inch clearance. It wasn't touching the CPU. And that's because, I don't know how well I can show you these, but these are the mounting posts. This post, this is the old style, this is the new style. This post is longer than this post. And I should be able to, because the threads look like they're the same, I should be able to replace the old posts with the new posts. Oh, look at that. That just goes right in, attaches perfectly. Okay, let me get all these in, and then I can attach my cooler. Okay, let's try this again now that I have the new correct posts in. And I'm going to use their style of knurl nuts to tighten this down. They're a little bit smaller, and therefore a little bit less accommodating to my clumsy hands. Now, use a screwdriver to tighten these down. The mounting is done. I have 3 connectors to hook up. So this goes to, I'm going to use a flashlight to get in there to make sure I really see well. Goes to the CPU fan. That's in place. There it goes. That snaps in. And then again, the block goes down over here, like so. That's in place. The last thing is this cable here, which I plugged into my modular power supply. It's supposed to go into an SATA, which it did. Where's the other end? So here's my modular cable. That goes on this way. There's a little L shape that determines which way it goes in. One more thing. Get out a wire tie. And just connect this across that. I hope whoever invented wire ties is living in a mansion somewhere, because they deserve it. One of the greatest inventions of humankind. There we go. That should be it. One more thing. There's a plastic film on this CPU cooler that's supposed to be peeled off. There it is. It's just a piece of plastic film to protect the plastic so that it doesn't get scratched. That's it. I am ready to move this back into the office and get it all plugged in. The computer is running. It's running. Everything seems normal. I installed the Corsair IQ software, which allows me to monitor the temperature of my CPU. It's running at 30.7 degrees Celsius, which is about 87 degrees Fahrenheit, which is super fine. That's excellent. That's not overheating at all. So I'm happy. That's what it takes to repair a computer sometimes, especially when you build them yourself. And that's why I build my own computers, because I know what's in there and I know what to do when something goes wrong. So hopefully you were a little bit entertained or amused or whatever. But thanks for watching.